The way people think, and going to movies and watching all this violence, it causes a stress reaction in their body. Even watching television, watching violence on television or terrible stuff, the adrenal glands pour out adrenaline and cortisone. That is the stress reaction. That's the fight or flight reaction. We have in our body, God has given us this ability to suddenly have tremendous energy, like for a mother to lift a car off of her child, or to run from a bear, or to run from an attacker, and that's called the flight or fight reaction, and every doctor knows about this. It's a stress reaction, but it's meant for short term. But people are so stressed these days, they are operating under chronic stress, whether it's domestic stress or job stress, and this is a very, very detrimental thing. Also, it happens when the government continues to scare you. It's an orange alert, it's a red alert, it's this, and it makes people sick. And I think we discussed last time, this is one of the reasons that there was a major flu epidemic in 1918. Not only were people injected with bad things when they were frightened into thinking there was going to be a flu epidemic, so they took the vaccine, which had the flu virus in it. So the only people that got the disease were the ones who got the vaccinations, but they were also terribly stressed because of World War I.
Right.
We were in war against Germany. The Germans were being demonized. Everybody hated the Germans. And when you hate, it causes this stress reaction to occur. When you hold grudges, whether it's against a friend or against a nation, and then they were sending their boys off to war, and they were being killed in war, and then all the stress of the families going through that. So we were a nation waiting for a bad disease to come along. And as they frighten people more and more, and we have now this financial crisis coming, and people are going to be terrified. They don't know how they're going to live. They don't know what's going to happen to the economy. So people become frightened, and then they become prone to disease.
Right.
And so that's another way the government causes people to die, and then people become despondent, and they get on drugs, and then they kill themselves or kill their children or whatever, because many of these antidepressants cause people to be suicidal
depressed
or homicidal.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's right. And this is all part of the plan.
Right.
All these SSRI
you're saying that
antidepressants.
Yeah, you're saying those side effects that we hear running by with in a very quick tone at the end of an advertisement.
That if you have any brain at all, you wouldn't put the stuff in your mouth.
Yes.
Right.
Is it? Do you think that it's a byproduct of, or are these things created knowing that there are these side effects?
Oh, they know that. They know it. Absolutely, they know it. In fact, one of the big pharmaceutical guys, I can't remember if it was Eli Lilly or Merck, said, our goal is to get everybody on drugs.
Right.
Everybody on drugs. And so drugs are just used for everything. Instead of people saying, oh, well, now I've got a cold, need to get some rest, and I need to drink water, and I need to eat very light meals and let my body cleanse itself. No. I got to take
I'll
something.
go to Starbucks. I'll get a triple venti today.
And I'll go to the doctor and get some antibiotics, which don't work for viruses anyway, and give me some pills. Just give me some pills. Mm-hmm. People don't want to change the way they live.
Let me ask you this, Lorraine. With what's coming up with the economy, what's already in the works, well underway, I think you feel, as a lot of people do, that this is kind of an end game to the way we have been living in the past.
Yes.
And I certainly, from everything I've read and seen, I would tend to agree. But I also look at it as a mixed blessing. There may be a blessing in this.
Oh, of course.
For us to regain something that we didn't have while we were in the mill. Can you talk about your perspective on it?
Oh, well, these are all blessings. They're all blessings. When antibiotics become ineffective, it's a great blessing, because then people will have to start learning how to eat, live, and handle stress properly and take care of themselves. When they start decreasing medical care and rationing medical care, that will be the greatest blessing of all. You know, the health of America was the best during World War II because, number one, sugar was rationed, meat, poultry, and fish were rationed. Everybody had what was called a victory garden in their backyard. I remember those. I'm old enough. Mm-hmm. And so they were eating vegetables out of their garden. And the biggest reason that people were so well is all the doctors were overseas. Okay? Seriously, okay? And so people had to start learning how to take care of themselves. So when they start rationing medical care, and they're going to ration medical care because they don't want people to live.
Right.
And doctors in the emergency room are going to be given the right, and this has already happened in some countries, the doctors are going to be given the right. If you bring your father in who's elderly, and maybe he has an arrhythmia, an unstable heart rate, and the ER doctor, who doesn't know your father at all, doesn't know his quality of life or anything, will be able to have the right to assess your father in 5 minutes, doesn't know anything about him, decide on his own whether this person has a decent quality of life or not. And if he decides he doesn't, then he can just say there's nothing we can do. When inserting a pacemaker would be easy to do. And so people are going to be making these life and death decisions, doctors in emergency rooms, and they will be denying care right and left. And HMOs are denying care. I can tell you some horror stories about what these HMOs are doing. And so when the good side of this is that when there's a decrease in medical care, people will have to start looking for ways to be well on their own naturally. And of course, that's what I did. I realized when I developed my cancer, I realized I'd seen thousands of patients die from chemotherapy and radiation that we give them. It's horrible. Chemotherapy and radiation both cause cancer. I said, I'm not doing that. So I had to look around for a way to truly get well. And everybody is eventually going to have to learn how to do that. We have to go back to the simpler things of life. When I was growing up, there was no television when I was a kid. And so guess what we did? People came over, we played ping pong, and we played board games, and we had popcorn, and we had a wonderful time.
Absolutely. I view it exactly the same way you do.
And people will go back to that. And my parents got married at the height of the Depression. I mean, they were really poor. My dad had a job, but he lost his job during the Depression, and they had to live in southern Illinois in a tent and bury their food in the ground.
Yeah.
Okay? That's poor. So I was raised with that Depression mentality. I know what they went through. And when I was growing up, we didn't have money either, but we made our own fun. People don't make their own fun. Kids now, they don't come home and play. Even my sons, when they came home from school, they played after school. Nobody plays anymore. They don't develop any creativity or decision-making abilities. They learn to be part of a team where they're told what to do, they're taught to be aggressive and win, and they're actually, all of these competitive sports are training them to be military aggressors to kill.
Yes.
And that's why they want women to be active in sports, so they will also become killers. And all of these schools who think they think it's so wonderful, and the parents think it's so wonderful to have their children in all these competitive sports, it's destroying them. And children do not play anymore, which is very bad for their health.
Well, they never have that rest cycle. Their being starts on the adrenal crisis end from a very early age.
Very early age. And it's putting all sorts of stress on children because the whole idea is to win. And that's why if they don't win, if they don't get into the right college, it's putting tremendous pressure on them. And that's one reason that even children are on all these antidepressants, they're on drugs, they're eating because they're nervous, they're becoming diabetic, they're becoming obese. All of these things are happening. And again, you know, my solution is, the only answer is to learn to, first of all, you've got to eat right and learn how to handle stress. The only real way to handle stress is to learn how to give it to the Lord.